Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in for a ride through one of the most chaotic, bizarre, and ultimately fascinating production stories we've seen in years.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about Bong Joon-ho's $150 million existential sci-fi satire, Mickey 17.
You just don't get a film like this very often. I mean, it costs as much as A Small War. It's directed by a Palme d'Or, an Oscar winner. And yet all the gossip around it was this nervous whispering.
Right, like the kind of talk you usually reserve for films that are, openly on fire.
Exactly. The whole narrative became less about the movie itself and more about this internal war being fought just to get it released. Our sources, insider reports, adaptation analyses, the cold hard financials, they paint a picture of just absolute chaos.
That's the perfect word for it. This is the story of a really high-concept, deeply subversive film that was nearly annihilated by the very studio system that paid for it. It's a perfect case study in what happens when a pure auteur vision crashes head-on into corporate anxiety, especially when that vision costs 9 figures.
And our mission today is to give you all of that context, the juiciest insider gossip from Robert Pattinson's bizarre voice to the huge fight for the final cut and all the surprising thematic stuff.
We want to unpack why this film is such a singular anomaly, how a satire about a disposable worker almost became the most disposable film on Warner Bros.' entire schedule.
Only to emerge, battered but brilliant.
And to really get the film's DNA, you have to start with the production turmoil, the pure, unadulterated panic. And that panic always starts with the schedule. Okay, so let's get into this timeline, because the release date shuffle for Mickey 17 wasn't just, like, a logistical thing.
No, not at all.
It was a flashing red light, a signal of total institutional panic played out on a calendar for the whole world to see.
That's absolutely right. For a film with this kind of budget, a release date is a strategic declaration. It's a statement of confidence.
And the signals Warner Bros. Was sending were less prestige blockbuster and more.
Please stop asking us about this very expensive, very weird movie.
Exactly. So let's run through the phases, because it really tells the story of the fear building up at the executive level. Phase 1, the prestige slot.
Right.
It was initially locked for March 29th, 2024. That's prime real estate.
Oh yeah, that's a strong window. It's right after the Oscars. You're bridging the gap between the serious dramas and the summer blockbusters. It's a power move.
They were clearly hoping to emulate the success of Dune, Part 2, which was in a similar high-concept slot.
Totally. They were positioning Mickey 17 as the thinking person's blockbuster, something that could get great reviews and make serious money.
Phase 2, The Void.
Right.
The 2023 strikes hit, and in early 2024, the film just vanishes from the schedule. Poof, gone.
Now, to be fair, Bong and the studio did clarify this was mostly logistical. For a film this complex, the strikes were kind of fatal to that original date.
You can't do your post-production work.
You can't. You need your actors for dialogue recording, for ADR.
Yeah.
You need the director and sometimes the cast to sign off on visual effects shots.
And when your star is Robert Pattinson and you have thousands of VFX shots, you literally can't finish the movie.
So, okay, that makes sense. But then we get to phase 3, and this is where the alarm bells really started going off for industry analysts.
Because it got rescheduled for January 31st, 2025.
January. For a film this big, that is almost a public surrender.
We call it the dump month for a reason, right?
It's where studios go to offload expensive failures. They just assume audiences are tired from the holidays and aren't going to spend money on, cerebral sci-fi.
And you look at that budget, $150 million, and you know the break-even point is going to be somewhere around $300 million, maybe more, once you factor in marketing.
So dropping a film that expensive into January, it just signals that Warner Bros. Saw this thing as a massive liability. They were trying to cut their losses.
It shows a total lack of faith in the domestic audience.
Well, yes, but there was a counter-narrative here we have to mention. That January date did align with the Lunar New Year.
Ah, okay. The international play.
Exactly. Given Bong's godlike status in Asia, pushing it hard in South Korea and other territories was probably their strongest remaining commercial move.
So the strategy was basically America won't get this, but maybe Asia will save us.
Pretty much. But the shuffling wasn't even over yet.
Yeah.
Phase 4, the final correction, it eventually landed back on March 7, 2025.
Back to a respectable slot.
The respectable slot, yes, but you can't erase the narrative. The damage was done. All that movement just fueled the story that the film was troubled.
And we know why it was troubled. The creative content was just too weird for the people signing the checks.
Which brings us right to the heart of the drama, the auteur versus commerce war.
And this is where we have to say it because it defined the whole production. Warner Bros. Almost killed this movie.
This wasn't just your typical studio notes friction. This was a near-fatal conflict over the soul of the project.
Yeah.
It really shows you how precarious it is to be an auteur director, even an Oscar-winning one, inside a major studio system that's just desperate for repeatable IP.
The insider reports detailed this severe, sustained conflict between Bong and the WB execs. And the big rumor was that the studio found his version bizarre, tonally alienating.
And commercially suicidal. That's the key phrase. They saw this dark, satirical, unheroic character study, and they just panicked.
They don't see $150 million of visionary art. They see $150 million of weird.
And that panic led to the infamous studio cut. Our sources confirm the claim that Warner Bros. Actually commissioned a whole separate alternative cut of the film.
Trying to make it more of an action movie, more linear, easier to sell.
And the reports, which Bond fiercely denied, claimed this studio version tested 10 points higher with audiences.
Okay, but let's unpack that. A higher test score just means it's more conventional, right?
Exactly. It doesn't mean it's better. It just means it's more like what people have seen before. The casual moviegoer who wants a simple hero arc is going to score that version higher.
Of course they would. If you test a version with more lasers, less nasal wimpiness, it's going to score higher. But that proves the studio's bias against complexity. They tried to strip the satire right out of it.
They wanted The Martian. Bong gave them Brazil.
Yeah.
So this forced Bong into a very public defense. He used every platform he had to state unequivocally that he was contracted for final cut and full creative control. It was non-negotiable.
And he went further than just PR speak. On a Korean podcast, he called the reports of bad test screenings unfounded and bullshit.
That is not a director playing nice. That is a director drawing a line in the sand, publicly. He was leveraging his global status to hold them accountable.
So at the end of the day, the existence of an alternative cut is pretty plausible given the budget.
Highly plausible. But Bong had the contractual power, and he had the cultural reputation from Parasite to force their hand. He made them release his original challenging vision.
So the auteur won.
The auteur won. But the whole fight left a trail of damage. A financial and reputational trail that, as we'll see, definitely showed up at the box office.
Yeah.
So moving from all that production mess to the actual core of the film's identity, we have to talk about how Bong Joon-ho adapted the novel, Mickey 7.
Right, because it wasn't just a simple adaptation, was it?
Not at all. It was a total thematic and tonal transmutation. He completely changed the lead character, turned him from this grounded survivor into a figure of existential farce.
The book was much more like The Martian, right? It's this sort of cerebral survival procedural. Mickey 7 was a competent historian using his wits to survive.
Exactly. The tone was grounded, logical. Bong Joon-ho saw that competence and immediately just threw it out the window.
The film, Mickey 17, is a chaotic black comedy, a bizarre sci-fi satire. And Mickey's not competent. He's the ultimate downtrodden, expendable worker. He's just worn down machinery.
The title change alone tells you everything. Bong said, I killed him 10 more times. That's why we changed it to Mickey 17. It's not about plot. It's about heightening the cruelty, the absurdity of this gig economy concept. He's a punching bag.
Which leads us directly to Robert Pattinson's performance, which is just the linchpin of the whole film's weird, jarring tone.
It's a radical choice.
Yeah.
He completely rejects all the traditional Hollywood leading man tropes. And this is what made the studio so nervous.
We have to spend time on the voices, because this is the most bizarre, brilliant, and probably divisive detail in the whole report.
Pattinson created completely distinct vocal identities for the two clones, Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, and he drew them from these incredibly niche pop culture sources.
Okay, so for Mickey 17, the victim, the one carrying the weight of all those deaths, Pattinson adopted this wimpy, high-pitched nasal voice.
And the inspirations, according to our sources, were the character Forvel from the Comedy Bang and Dick podcast.
Which is already super niche.
Super niche. And, critically, the animated character Stimpy from Ren and Stimpy.
The Stimpy voice. I mean, can you just picture that meeting? Robert Pattinson, Batman himself, telling Bong Joon-ho, for my $150 million sci-fi movie, I'm going to sound like a whiny cartoon cat.
It's an insane choice. But it instantly communicates Mickey 17's learned helplessness, his exhaustion. He's not struggling heroically. He's just surviving in a state of low-grade panic.
It's total deconstruction. The voice is literally grating. It forces you to confront how miserable his existence is.
Right. And then you got to contrast that with Mickey 18, the new clone. the aggressive one. He's basically Mickey's unrestrained id.
And for him, Pattinson channeled a totally different energy.
A completely different energy. The inspirations there were Ren Stimpy's cruel, hyper-aggressive partner,
Of course.
and the paranoid, fast-talking energy of Steve Buscemi's character in Fargo.
That is an amazing combination. So the voice is fast, erratic, threatening.
And the effect is so key. You're watching this huge blockbuster, but your lead characters sound like a whimpering cartoon animal and an unstable, manic criminal.
The cognitive dissonance is the whole point.
It is.
Pattinson is insane for doing this. He's risking alienating the entire general audience to serve this very specific satirical tone.
A tone which required a fundamental change from the book. In the novel, Mickey 8 was basically an ally to Mickey 7. They worked together.
The conflict was external.
It was. But Bong needed to turn that internal identity struggle into something physical, something farcical. So he made Mickey 18 an outright antagonist.
And the report describes him as having frontal lobe damage, no self-control, and a libido out of control.
Yes. He's actively trying to kill Mickey 17. So instead of this cerebral, philosophical question about identity.
It becomes a slapstick physical battle.
Exactly. The question isn't, am I still me? It's, is this horny psycho going to murder me before I can take a nap?
Which is the perfect dynamic for the whole Ren and Stimpy thing.
And Pattinson's physicality matches it. Critics compared him to early Jim Carrey. Mickey 17 is heavy. He slumps, carrying the weight of 17 deaths.
While Mickey 18 is all kinetic, twitchy predator energy.
Bong Joon-ho said he cast him because of the crazy thing in his eyes. That quality let him sell the existential terror.
Without losing the comedic absurdity.
It's a calculated, career-risking performance. It's designed to dismantle the very idea of a glamorous sci-fi hero.
Okay, so now that we've got the chaos of the production and the absolute weirdness of the central performance, we can get into why Bong fought so hard for that final cut.
Right, because this film is so much more than just a weird action comedy. It's a dense philosophical text. It is relentlessly themed.
And those themes are pretty politically charged.
The whole thing revolves around the expendable. And that is a savage, unsparing critique of the modern gig economy. It takes the idea of being replaceable and makes it brutally, physically literal.
This isn't just about bad jobs. This is about your labor being self-erasure, being death.
In this universe, the working class doesn't just sell their time. They sell their biological existence. They agree to be terminated and rebooted for a colonial project.
The reprinting process is the ultimate terrifying HR solution.
It is. You die, they just grow a new you. Your soul, your personality, is just a data file to be restored so work can continue.
And the parallel to our world is so sharp. You think about Amazon warehouses, Uber drivers. The worker is just a replaceable logistical component.
It's disposability taken to its most horrific extreme. And the film is brilliant on the illusion of choice. Mickey isn't a hero. He chooses this life to escape crushing debt.
The freedom to sign the contract is no freedom at all when the alternative is ruin.
And that raises the stakes of the whole thing. It leads you right into the ship of Theseus paradox.
Yeah.
You know, the classic identity question.
If Mickey 17 dies and is replaced by Mickey 18, is it the same person?
The colony has to operate on the lie that, yes, it is. The copy is the original. But Mickey 18's existence proves that's false.
Right. Even with the same DNA and memories, the trauma of the last death or some tiny flaw in the reprint creates a fundamentally different person. The soul isn't data you can just back up.
And that is why the multiples taboo is enforced with such brutal, immediate violence, the death penalty for any duplicates.
The fear isn't just logistical about feeding two people, it's existential.
Exactly. If two Mickeys can exist, then the uniqueness of the individual is destroyed. And the whole disposable nature of the worker becomes undeniable. The system falls apart.
The colony leader, Marshall, he can't have that. He can't have evidence that his workers are just cheap, identical units.
And speaking of colonialism, that brings us to the Creepers twist, which is maybe the most effective and certainly the most bizarre thematic subversion in the whole film.
And another reason the studio was freaking out.
Oh, for sure. Bong completely subverts the standard alien threat trope to serve this powerful anti-colonial message. It's something he's an expert at, like an OCHA.
So in the book, the creepers are a genuine threat, right? Insectoid monsters.
Omnivorous, yeah. But in the film, Bong redesigned them to be explicitly adorable.
And we have the description from the industry report. It's unforgettable.
It's incredible. The sources say he redesigned them to look croissants dipped in shy. But, and this is the key part, with puppy-like eyes and behaviors.
So they're grotesque, but also cute. You can't see them as monsters you need to kill.
You can't. The design choice immediately shifts your allegiance away from the human colonizers and toward the indigenous life of the planet.
It's genius satire. So when Mark Ruffalo's character, Marshall, wants to exterminate them as vermin,
You don't see it as self-defense. You see it as a cruel, needless massacre of innocent creatures.
Marshall is the classic colonial impulse. Conquer, exploit, exterminate.
But the film's ending, the ending Bong fought so hard to keep, completely rejects that. Mickey 17 survives and brokers peace with the creepers.
Survival isn't achieved by domination, but by integration, by respect.
And that powerful thematic resolution is why a sequel is basically impossible. Bong prioritized a perfect closed loop, ending over the franchise potential the studio desperately wanted.
He chose theme over a payday. That's a true auteur move.
And to really appreciate that vision, you have to look at the aesthetics. The visuals, engineered by the great cinematographer Darius Kanji, are described as grungy luxury.
It's a calculated visual contrast that just reinforces the class divide at the heart of the story.
He used the large format Arri Alexa 65 camera, which captures this incredible detail, but then he manipulated that pristine image with his lens choices.
Right, the lenses themselves are telling the story.
They're basically two different visual worlds. The first is the expendable life on the ice planet, the dirty reality of labor. For that, they use TLS Vega lenses.
Those are vintage lenses. They create a softer, grittier, more textured image.
They introduce flares, imperfections. It makes you feel the grit, the weariness. You're experiencing the decay of the system through the lens itself.
Okay, and the second world.
That's the command quarters, the life of the elite. For those scenes, they switched to Cooke S7 lenses.
Which are sharp, clean, sterile.
Exactly. Perfect cold efficiency. It instantly visualizes the detachment of the ruling class. Their world is clean lines, completely removed from the dirty reality of the people they sent out to die.
And the lighting amplified this, right? It was very utilitarian.
Brutally so. They avoided traditional movie lighting. The report says the sets had lights built right into the walls, made to look dirty and old.
So Kanji lit scenes with those practical fixtures?
Often leaving faces in shadow. It creates this deeply oppressive, uncomfortable atmosphere. The ship doesn't feel like a futuristic utopia. It feels like an oil rig or a submarine, a dangerous workplace.
And the sound design is just as subversive. The score by Young Jae-ho.
A classic Bong Joon-ho move. Contrapuntal sound design. He deliberately clashes the music with the visuals to heighten the absurdity.
So you have these tracks like titled Bon Appetit playing over gruesome death scenes.
With beautiful, classical, operatic arrangements, it creates this ironic distance. It forces you to see the violence not as a heavy tragedy, but as a sick joke.
You're recoiling in shock, but the music is telling you this is all just background noise for the colonizers.
And all of this, the Pattinson voices, the croissant aliens, the visual structure, the ironic score, it all coalesced into this dense, unique film.
Which brings us, finally, to the financial reckoning. Because this movie was always going to be a tough sell.
And the market confirmed it.
Yeah, the big question was always, is this movie just too dense, too weird for a general audience? And the numbers are... well, they're brutal.
Let's lay out the reality. The production budget was a firm $150 million.
Marketing spend was around $80 million. So total cost, about $230 million.
Which means your break-even point, after the theaters take their cut, is somewhere around $460 million. Maybe $375 million on the conservative end.
And the result?
A global box office of $133.3 million.
Oh.
It was a catastrophic failure. It didn't even make back the production budget, let alone the marketing. The market actively rejected it.
So Warner Bros. Almost killed the movie, but in the end, the market finished the job just by staying home.
Which leads to the big debate. Was this movie destined to flop because of its critical value? Did all the subversive, complex things, the Stimpy voice, the weird aliens, just repel the mass audience?
You have to compare it to other films, like Blade Runner 2049, a huge budget film that failed commercially.
But became a deeply respected cult classic, a rich text for future analysis.
And the complexity of Mickey 17 suggests it could follow that path. It's not made for a single viewing.
No. It rewards analysis. If the studio had gotten their way and released the alternative cut, the safe version, it might have made a bit more money and been instantly forgotten.
But because Bong won that war, because he forced his strange, uncompromising vision on the world,
we're left with a cinematic object that's too weird to ever make a profit, but maybe too smart and singular to ever be ignored.
It's the ultimate paradox. The quality of the art is directly proportional to its financial failure. So what does it all mean? We've gone through the studio war, the insane Stimpy voice, the croissants dipped in aliens, and the financial catastrophe.
And the core struggle was always clear. The studio wanted a franchise that could print money.
And Bong Joon-ho gave them a scathing, closed-loop thematic resolution.
He chose integrity over income, finality over franchise. That ending, with Mickey 17 brokering peace, it makes the book's sequel impossible to adapt. He sacrificed a potential franchise for a perfect, singular mic drop.
And that decision, that audacity, brings us to our final declaration. Even with the disastrous box office, Mickey 17 is a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece precisely because it breaks all the rules of the modern blockbuster. It's an act of pure, expensive defiance.
Its value isn't in dollars, but in its unapologetic weirdness. Its refusal to compromise its satirical bite for something more palatable.
It's destined for endless analysis, a film about disposability that is itself utterly vital. It refuses to be thrown away.
And that leaves us with the final provocative thought, a question that brings this whole cosmic sci-fi thing right back down to earth, to your own life. If The Expendable is just a critique of a world where our labor is reduced to replaceable data, where our worth is just our productivity, well, then we have to define our own identity. If your job views you as just replaceable machinery, how many times do you have to be reprinted? How many times do you have to endure that soul-crushing work before you realize you're no longer the same person who signed up in the first place?